Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Week 1 Top 25 review. Major takeaways in this first week. This is being recorded before Florida State Boston College, so if something crazy ends up happening there, I guess I'll make a separate video on it then, although I don't really plan on tuning into that, so we'll see. But this is being recorded pretty much a couple hours after the USC LSU game, so from that point forward. There are some games on here that I included in the review that were actually shocking results to me that I didn't predict because I thought they were going to be a certain way. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. Like and subscribe and help a comment always helps. Let's go. First one, I made a prediction for this one. I wouldn't even review this if I had the choice, but I was pretty spot on. I mean, I'm not giving myself any pats on the shoulders for this. Clemson was not going to do this. Now, this was another game I thought that it was in, like, at Georgia. I guess it was at some sort of neutral site, but still in Atlanta, Georgia. And Clemson was not winning in an environment like this. It was freaking loud in there. Now, I will say, Clemson did play very, very tough. I mean, going into the second quarter, well, here's the final score. 3-34. But going into the second quarter, the score was 3-6 or 0-6. I mean, it was a fairly fought game all the way until 3 minutes and 15 seconds when Georgia punched in that other touchdown to go up 20-3. I mean, it was a tough game. It was a very well-fought game, and Clemson actually could definitely be a team to take the ACC. I think it'll definitely come down to Miami versus Clemson right now because all the other teams kind of looked like shit other than these two from what we have seen. But Carson Beck was 23 for 33, 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, right now, with some of the performances that some of the quarterbacks put up, he doesn't look like the Heisman in terms of statistics, but he got the burden of going up against a top defense like that and still threw for 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty doggone good performance by Carson Beck. And I think right now, Georgia is dominant. Like, Clemson's going to be a pretty good team this year. They've got a really good defense. And Georgia, even though it was fought for a long time, ended up pulling away 34-3 and made it look easy. Their defense and their offense is stellar. No one stands in front of the Bulldogs, especially a team I'm going to talk about in the video. Penn State at West Virginia. Okay, so I said West Virginia was going to win this one. That might have been a bad prediction. However, I think that this was kind of lopsided. Okay, going into halftime, the score was 20-6 off of, okay, yes, this was not a bad prediction at all because that final drive going into halftime was one of the most bullshit referee failures I have ever seen. The deep ball throw Drew Aller just heaved up there, and the Penn State receiver just entirely pushes off of the defender to catch it, and the refs are just staring at a bird. They didn't throw it, which ended up leading to the play after was a great catch for Penn State to score a touchdown, but still, you go into halftime there 13-6 because that play doesn't happen, or even 16-6. Ball game is still active, but not only that, a massive weather delay that takes this game hours to start back up. By then, West Virginia fans are probably gone. Any fans are probably gone. Penn State opens up the second half with a 40-yard rushing touchdown. And then West Virginia attempts to make a comeback, but they fail the 2-point conversion. And then Penn State just puts on another touchdown, and you get the final score 34-12. But a lot of bullshit occurred in this game to go against West Virginia. Sorry, not sorry. That was the most blatant push-off. You can watch the game back. It was an obvious push-off. Even the announcers were saying he got away with the push-off absolutely. And it's like, in a one-on-one situation like that, in a tight game, how do the referees just absolutely miss that? Well, it looks like they were in favor of Penn State that game because, my goodness, that was bad. But Drew Aller wasn't bad. He was 11 for 17, 216 yards and 3 touchdowns. But their running back, Nicholas Singleton, we're going to call him Nick. Nick had 13 carries for 114 yards and 1 touchdown. Very, very good game. And then their wide receiver, Harrison Wallace III, 5 receptions, 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. He might have been the guy that did the push-off, but, if you're going to get away with it, go for it, bro. Oh, I just realized I forgot a game. But that's all really for this game. I think this was bullshit, and West Virginia, that wasn't fair. I don't have this put up, but I just want to briefly talk about the Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt game. I completely forgot about this game. My oh my. Vanderbilt wins it in overtime. Should have won it with the last-second field goal, but wins it in overtime. Virginia Tech absolutely could have won this game. Getting down 17-0 like that, even 17-3 going into halftime, was just unacceptable by Virginia Tech. They end up bringing the game all the way back and almost sold it at the end, but got given overtime, and then they threw it away again. Their quarterback, I believe, went out at the end of the game, which is why it kind of slipped away from Virginia Tech. I think the Virginia Tech quarterback went out with an injury. He hurt his leg or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I remember seeing him get off the field, and I don't remember him coming back in. But Virginia Tech losing to Vanderbilt was hideous. I mean, that destroyed me, but I don't have the game posted up, so we're just going to get on to the next one. Miami at Florida. I'm very happy I took Miami in this one and not Florida because I completely forgot. I knew Miami, got transfers and were, supposed to be that team of the ACC, but I failed to remember that they got Cam Ward from Washington State, who's a fabulous quarterback, but also they got Damian Martinez from Oregon State, who literally was Oregon State's offense because DJ Uiagalelei could not be the quarterback, so Damian Martinez had to be the running back. Now these two combined forces, I said Florida was going to make it close because it's in the swamp. Those two forces absolutely pummeled the Gators, made it look easy. And I'm sorry, but the Gators got a long season ahead of them. That was not a good game. But the reason I was talking about Carson Beck and the Heisman talk was because Cam Ward put up a damn game. 26 for 35, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception through the air. Now, if I go ahead and look at rushing, he had quite a few rushing yards as well. Let's see. Only 3 carries, but for 33 yards. I mean, he had some pretty darn good rushes in there. But so he's pretty much going to tally up a total of 400-something yards in his first game, and it was in a full crowd swamp. Florida may not have been the best football team, but still, it's a hard environment to play in. And Miami absolutely handled business, and this team looks like the ACC's champion right now. That's simple enough, to be honest. I'm glad I picked Miami. I never really thought I was going to take Florida, but I like the road games as upsets. But Florida was not even close to pulling it off. And ultimately, Graham Mertz looked like shit. Their running back for Florida looked good, but Graham Mertz looked like shit. Oh, yeah, this game. So I'm talking about Georgia earlier and how they look like the obvious number one. That's because one of the most hyped up teams in the offseason struggled hideously. I didn't make a prediction, so this was the score. But Dillon Gabriel actually had a very, very good game. All right. The question is why was there no points? And that's a great question because Dillon Gabriel was 41 for 49, 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. I mean, when you throw 41 passes, you'd almost want more than 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. But still, bro was slinging the rock. He completed almost all of his passes. But it's against Idaho. Running back was good. The running back, Jordan James, was good. 15 carries, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. And the tight end, Terrence Ferguson, was their leader in receiving yards. So, what happened for Oregon to literally struggled this hard with this team. And I can't even tell you. Well, I can tell you this. There was definitely questionable. So they opening drive of the game, they get up 7-0. So you get punt. I don't even know, man. Yeah, punt by Idaho, touchdown by Oregon. Punt by Idaho, punt by Oregon. A 3 and out. Pretty much. 3 and out. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. A missed field goal by Oregon, and then an interception by Idaho. Touchdown by Oregon, punt by Idaho, fumble by Oregon, fourth down failure by Idaho, end a half, 14-0. Now, you look at some of these games that are close in the first half, and you go, wait till the second half. That's what I was saying with Oregon. I was like, Oregon's gonna get this done. They open up with their first drive. In the second half, and with a punt, a drive that went -8 yards because he was sacked. Idaho punts. Oregon cannot convert a fourth down. Idaho punt. Oregon again cannot convert a fourth down. Idaho touchdown. Oregon field goal. Idaho touchdown. But then Oregon touchdown, Idaho punt, Oregon punt, Idaho interception, Oregon end of game. You had 2 failed fourth down conversions against Idaho. You had a fumble. You had a missed field goal. Is this team really number 3 in the country? 487 total yards of offense, all for 24 points, and a 10-point win against nobody. They also had 60 yards of penalties. I mean, is this team really number 3 in the country, or are they more like number 15 in the country? Because I'm starting to think Oregon might be overrated. Now, Oregon's got plenty of other games this year to prove themselves, and after all, Ohio State started off the same way last year with a close game against Indiana, right? And I was all over it. I was like, they've got some explaining to do. However, they play Boise State next week. Now, I don't think Boise State has a good defense because they were in an absolute offensive shootout against Georgia Southern, but they have to play Boise State. And if they struggle with Idaho, they're going to struggle with Boise State. If they absolutely pummel them, then it's different. But Oregon is they've definitely got eyeballs, especially mine, because this was I sort of did watch it at the end, but once I knew the game was over, I turned it off. But barely squeaking out a 10-point victory in the season opener with all those fans, that is disappointing. And this one, man, Abilene Christian University at Texas Tech. I didn't even know this game was being played. I'm sorry, did you know Abilene Christian University was a college? I'm sure some people out there know Abilene Christian is a college, but, did you think they even had a football program type shit? Did you even know this was a team? Well, they almost fucking beat Texas Tech in their home stadium in overtime, 51-52. And their quarterback put up an absolute Heisman performance, dude. The Abilene Christian quarterback went 36 for 51, 506 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Let me repeat that. 506 yards. I mean, football's ridiculous. Either Abilene Christian is a good team or Texas Tech is hideous. And I think it's more leaning over to the Texas Tech is hideous. I saw a thing where it had Texas Tech as the 3rd best team in the state of Texas, which I just think is completely false now, with Abilene Christian nearly pulling off an upset. They tried to do a 2-point run conversion, which failed, which absolutely blows my mind that they would try to run it after your passing game has just been so good all game. Why would you run it? Who knows? But, man, this one caught my eye. The Texas Tech quarterback didn't even play bad. He went 30 for 42, 378 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns, that's fabulous. And the running back had a great game for Texas Tech. 27 carries, 153 yards, and a touchdown. And I mean, but it's like Abilene Christian, dude. It's Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian even had more yards. They just had a fumble and a failed fourth down conversion. Texas Tech had 2 failed down conversions, so they pretty much split. Both teams had a decent amount of penalties. Both teams had a shitload of first downs. I mean, Texas Tech, where's your fucking defense? Did you just decide to switch spots with USC? No spoilers, but did you just decide to swap spots with USC this year? Where's your defense? Texas Tech is not going to be a good team this year. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. Congrats to Notre Dame, dude. I shit talk them. I say they're overrated. This was the matchup of overrateds. I said they weren't going to be able to go into Texas A&M and pull off the victory. This is the first time I've looked at Notre Dame and said, hey, you know what? They actually look really good and could be a solid team this year. Because all the other times, it's been like Notre Dame is like shaky. They've been shaky, to say the least. And they haven't ended up living up to expectations. This year, they're number 7. And this is not an easy game. The thing about this match was it was a defensive game because Texas A&M has the former Duke head coach who had a absolutely built defense over at Duke, and he brought that same mentality over to Texas A&M because that Texas A&M defense was absolutely built. It was just put away. The game was put away with a field goal. I mean, pretty much the game was put away in the final 2 minutes. It was 13-13, and it was a very close game through the rest of the game. But with a minute 54, Jeremiah Love, 21-yard rush for a touchdown to go up 7 points, and then Notre Dame kicked the field goal with 30 seconds left to pretty much put it away. Now, the thing about Texas A&M was they had a massive quarterback problem. 12 for 30, 100 yards, and 2 interceptions, no touchdowns for the Texas A&M quarterback. They've got a little problem at quarterback. If they had somebody who could fill in those shoes, Texas A&M wins this game. But the quarterback was just absolutely hideous. Jeremiah Love was the real star of this game, as well as the Texas A&M running back, Le'Veon, I think that is, Le'Veon Moss. He was also good. Both running backs were really good. Riley Leonard was all right over the air. He was 18 for 30, 158 yards. I mean, nothing special, but he had 12 carries for 63 yards on the floor. So he amounts to like 210 yards or something like that. Not bad. Not bad. He definitely played very, very well against a very defensive team. So Notre Dame, I mean, really this was just a matchup of defenses, but for Notre Dame to go into Texas A&M like that and win 23-13, just showing your absolute defensive skull, it's pretty impressive, you know? I mean, what, is the Texas A&M quarterback just really, really bad, or is he just not able to play football because Notre Dame's defense is that good? And honestly, I'm kind of leaning over to the fact that Notre Dame's defense is just that good. Maybe they're number 7 after all, you know? Maybe obviously I doubted both of these teams, but I guess I doubted the wrong one more. Congrats to Notre Dame. This was a big statement game for them. Oh, I had to include this one. You know, obviously I'm an ASU fan, but seriously, I wouldn't have included this if it was just another day in football. But I could say this, nobody, and I mean nobody, expected this outcome from ASU. The line was like ASU by like, it was ASU 6.5. The over-under was 47.5 points. And going into the game, ASU had like, let me see here. They had a, come on thing, work, please. They had a 72% chance to win the game. And I saw a lot of people who not only put ASU on upset alert this week, but literally picked Wyoming over ASU. And I was nervous going into this game because I didn't necessarily disagree with them. ASU football has been kind of, sketchy, to say the least, these past couple years. 48-7 obliteration. It wasn't even close These 7 points were scored against a second-string team with 2 seconds left on the clock. ASU, not only did they, obviously have a very good offense, but they had a supreme defense. I didn't even get a chance to turn on the game and watch it before we had a pick 6 and 7 on the board. It was literally like the first offensive play of the game for either team. Let me go up here and check. Yeah, the kickoff for 65 yards touchback, a 1-yard run, and then a pick 6. I mean, ASU actually looked phenomenal in this game. I know it's Wyoming, okay? So I obviously am getting ahead of myself. But this Wyoming team wasn't bad. Last year. They finished off like 9-4, and they beat Texas Tech at Texas Tech. They played 4 quarters with Texas. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad football team. I think this in the background, I think this is ASU versus Michigan State, because I see this S right here. I think that's the Spartans. But I'm just like, I felt the need to include this because not only am I trying to glaze my team, but I saw a very absurd amount of people picking Wyoming over ASU or saying this game was going to be close. And I find myself in that pack as well. And this was a statement from ASU. Even the bettors said this game wasn't going to have more than 47 points. Or more than, 47.5 points. That was the line, over or under. And ASU was only favored by 6.5 going into this game. They absolutely smothered this team into the floor, and this game really should have been a shutout. They absolutely Sean Boinged this team. And with the way the rest of the Big 12 looked in this first week, with Colorado barely squeaking out a win against North Dakota State, Texas Tech barely squeaking out a win against Abilene Christian, TCU struggling on the road against Stanford. I mean, who else? Let's go ahead and check here. What else happened in the Big 12? Now, what's their face? Utah, dominant. Utah was dominant. Southern Utah shut them out, dominant. Baylor, dominant. Absolutely dominant. Cincinnati struggled against a nobody. Iowa State definitely struggled. Kansas, dominant. Kansas State, dominant. Oklahoma State, dominant against South Dakota State, too, who's number 1 in FCS. Colorado struggled with, North Dakota State, but they're number 2 in FCS, so it's a respectable win. I think that's actually a pretty good win for them. UCF, dominant. Houston lost to UNLV in their home stadium. They're awful. West Virginia, they got their booty holes clapped by Penn State. Lower it down. You've got a lot of teams here. TCU barely beat Stanford by 7 points. You got a lot of teams here that put up struggles, and ASU looked absolutely dominant. Oh, I didn't even talk about the most important one. U of A struggled. I don't care if they won 61-39. You can't let no New Mexico put up 39 points against you in a game that is a 31.5 point spread. 31.5 point spread, and you go into halftime up 24-27. U of A is not number 21. Sorry. I'm just saying, man. You can cancel me if you want. It's just my opinion. ASU looked really fucking good in this game. And I am. It's my team. I'm allowed to. But mainly the reason why I chose to include this was because of just the fact of how many people I saw betting against, including myself, like I've said multiple times, really not taking much faith in ASU and just absolutely flipping the script. I mean, like what I'm trying to say is like this is one of those games that was like, whoa, okay, was not expecting that, you know? Kind of like the other games that I put on here, like Oregon versus Idaho. Like, wow, wasn't expecting that. Texas Tech versus Abilene Christian, was not expecting that. You know, that's why I put it here. Next game, USC versus LSU. In Las Vegas, I said an offensive shootout with LSU taking the win. And this is one of the scariest. USC teams I have seen, because their defense is that defense. They win it today, 27-20, taking down number 13 in a statement win. Statement. I mean, absolute statement. That's the only word. Both quarterbacks were absolutely fabulous. Okay, it was offense, but it was defense. I don't know how much to explain it. 447 yards of offense for USC, 421 yards of offense for LSU. Yet the game, nobody scored higher than 30 points. USC was 3 for 9 on third down efficiency. LSU was 5 for 13. But both teams had plus 20 first downs. Both teams failed a fourth down conversion, but LSU also converted a fourth down conversion. Both teams had a lot of penalties. And LSU had one interception thrown, which came like right at the end of the game to pretty much seal it, but the game was already over. But man, USC, they might be that team. I'm not glazing. They might be that team. That one-handed catch, if anybody has seen that yet, was absurd. And their receivers were performing on high elite level like that all damn night. And Miller Moss, he is a stellar. He can sling the ball. 27 for 36, 378 yards and 1 touchdown. He threw for almost 100 more yards than the LSU quarterback, and he completed 2 less passes. I mean, it was a close game, and it was definitely a great game. But USC pulls it off. A statement win. And they're pretty damn good. They're going up top 10, maybe top 15 for me once tomorrow's stupid Monday game is over and you can finally release the proper top 25 poll, which will have a lot of teams switching. But yeah, I mean, this was a huge statement win. So my first prediction video for like literally a whole year. My first prediction video from last year, whatever. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It wasn't the best. I don't know. I'll count my record and put it in the put it in the caption or the description. Gosh, all right. I'm sleepy. It's time to wrap this video up. I don't know what I'm even saying right now. All right, a like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps. That's all from me. Adios.